last week we had an issue, right? We couldn't do our live stream for a very specific reason. And for those who were watching the news, saw that, a big
Not my
chunk
case.
of
Not my case.
yeah, a big chunk of Europe had no energy anymore, right? Power outage. And that was especially affected in Spain, where my dear friend Paco Cantero, based in Madrid, had no energy. And well, he finds always ways to contact me. So
Even without electricity, man.
yeah, even without electricity. But we had to cancel the call. And here we are. And that leads to this today's topic, which is building reliable systems, I'd say. But I'm sure Paco can share more about this.
No, it's systems recovery because, well, I have to say that I learned a word that I didn't know, as many English words that I still don't know, like outage. Okay, I've never heard about it, but now I will never forget it. I don't know if my pronunciation is the right one, but well, I got it.
I cannot tell you if it is the right one. The two crazy guys. None of these are native speakers, but here we are.
And well, the thing is that I will tell a little bit the story behind what happened to me last week, because it was kind of another historical and pivotal moment. Well, it was the first time in history, okay, in Spain that we got no electricity at all. And well, it was kind of fun, okay, because if this happens, I don't know, when my grandfather or grandfather existed, well, I think that maybe it wasn't so impactful for them. But in our era, it was kind of chaotic, okay? I was in a meeting in Madrid, and suddenly the lights went off, and I thought that it was due to some workmen that were working outside on the street, and I didn't pay attention to that. I finished my meeting, and then while I was coming back home, in this case, I wasn't aware, okay, because I was on the highway. As always, I wasn't listening to the news, so it was the moment I arrived at home that the garage door was broken. That it's something that it usually happens, so I didn't take that into account either. I didn't take into account that
the traffic lights didn't work, maybe.
Well, but on the highway there are no traffic lights, because I left the city at the exact time that that happened. Okay, so I wasn't aware. The traffic was normal at that time. It was 12:30 in the afternoon. And the thing is that, well, also I had problems with my phone, with my SIM card, okay? And it was always failing. So I wasn't aware that that icon that appeared on my iPhone that I never saw, it was like a satellite, okay? Well, in fact, it was a satellite, okay? That was the only connection I had. But well, I wasn't aware for half an hour or so, the time that took me to arrive home. And the moment that I arrived there, my wife was waiting for me and told me the story that we didn't know if it was zero attack or something like that. The point is that there was no electricity at all. We didn't know where, okay? We didn't know if it was in Spain, all over, just in Madrid, just in a specific neighborhood. But well, the thing is that the misinformation and the strange things happen, no? Exactly like with COVID, or like with a special snowstorm that we had just after the COVID, okay? That was totally overwhelming for us, because it was snowing for 3 days in a row without stopping, something that has never ever happened in Madrid either. So you can tell that I'm living some special events, okay, that are mandatory in my calendar, unexpected events, okay, that I need to handle. And that was the thing, okay? Then everything started to crumble down, okay? At that moment, we had no connection to the internet. It was impossible. Okay, people were saying, the neighbors were saying everything because they had no clue either, because they couldn't connect to TV because all the TV goes through internet. uh, nowadays here. And well, the point is that finally I thought about going to the supermarket just to get some food or whatever, and also an old radio so that I can listen to the news. After 10 years without listening to the news, it was the right moment, okay,
Yeah.
to go back there. So the thing is that there were no radios available, not even in Chinese shops or something like that, that they had everything here. No, they were out of stock at that moment. And well, finally, I went to Carrefour. It's a big supermarket chain, a French supermarket chain that I visited there. And surprisingly, they had connection to the internet and everything was working properly because they have special and individual electricity generators. And also they had a Wi-Fi, okay, available. So that's how I connected, and I reach out to my dear Tom to tell them to tell him the news and the current and surrealistic situation I was living
And the
at that
fun
moment.
fact is that I immediately got 4 messages all the same via WhatsApp from Paco. And I thought, I think he got hacked. I didn't believe that it was him because he wasn't writing this. And then he sent me another message with the, well, with the team communication rules applied. So it was a red dot, urgent, and then are you okay or something was the question because he didn't know if Germany was affected too. And that's the moment where I thought, well, if he got hacked, it's unlikely that this guy knows how to communicate. Well, at least not yet. Maybe when the movement keeps growing, this becomes more common. But then I knew, well, and that's probably one of the only times in a whole year where Paco sent out a red dot. So you see, the whole country needs to shut down, and up to the point where Paco considers that this might be an urgent situation right now to reach out. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and
That the crazy thing is really you're never prepared to these things. That just showed it again. I got this. I didn't think at all about any of this, and I'm watching the news every day, although I shouldn't. But I still wasn't prepared to something like this, and I could be something very much worse than this could have happened. We never know, and that just shows
yeah,
again. No matter if you watch the news or not, you just worry too much. But the moment something hits, you won't even recognize it. So yeah,
yeah, and it was kind of surrealistic at all levels, okay, because of the uncertainty, but also because we take for granted things. We don't consider how complex it is to give electricity to a country like Spain or to an area to like Europe, no? But it's difficult, until the point that there's one moment that things can fail, and that's what happened last Monday. The thing is that, for instance, we are so used to certain habits. Okay, like for instance, when we went to the supermarket, and I say, well, I went with my wife, and I said, well, you can go there and I can go there. And I say, hold on a moment, man. We cannot communicate right now. If she gets lost, something happens, she has to run away. I don't know, because it's pretty easy right now laugh about the story, but when you are living it, that you don't know if this is a zero attack, if this is just a Spain, you cannot connect to anyone. My son, for instance, that he lives in Madrid too, but I couldn't connect to him, okay, and get in touch with him. It was kind of strange. The queues and the files on the supermarket there in the cashiers. Well, it was kind of surrealistic. Well, people from the Carrefour storing everything in specific places, especially the things that need to be fresh. Well, it was kind of chaotic because it was immediate. It was just one big shot and that was it. Okay, everything's gone. So you can imagine. Fortunately, we had no problems with the hospitals. Okay, Carrefour was a clear example because most of the big malls in Spain were shutting things down. Okay, they were closing. The point is that they couldn't close the gates. Okay, because they work based on electricity and there wasn't a plan B. Curious that. And also I'm talking about big chains like, for instance, Inditex, that it's Zara, and well, it's a textile company that it's all over the world, one of the most important. Well, they weren't prepared for this. So imagine the two of us or just oneself being prepared for such a chaotic situation.
Yeah, now the question
And
is, reactive mode. Is it now
correct.
worth for chains like this to implement a backup system in case this would happen again? And I would say it's a waste of money and even thought process, because the likelihood that something like this happens again is so minimal. You don't know. And now I said it, and I see next week something like this happens again, and I say, "Yeah, Tom, I told you." But the thing is, if you look in history, it's not the first time something like this happened. It seemed that it happened also in Italy. It was north of America. So these things happen. I just weren't aware, especially as when Paco contacted me, I reached out to my family. Nobody knew anything about this. That's really the question, how much they do. Also the government. But what's really curious, it's the energy production sites were still online, right? They were still working. It's not like that all those systems shut down. It is the controller that shut everything down. There was still a way to create energy, especially from solar panels and things like that, that you could have used, but without a controller sending the energy where it should go, then everything is shut down. And that
Yeah,
sees
the point
shows
is
how
that
dependent we are on these digital systems.
there there were no problems talking about hospitals. There were no problems about media. I mean, all the big broadcast systems were working, and that was kind of release, okay, because on my car I could listen to the radio, and then we get informed about what was going on, and if it was all the whole country or not, or what areas were not affected. So well, I think it was quite impressive, the reply to this failure. And also what reinforced for me was the importance and how crucial systems are. Okay, talking about myself, I went into reactive mode knowing that I couldn't do anything. So I just wait. I knew perfectly what to do at that moment at the supermarket, what to do with my life, how I can get the information. I was calm because I was betting on system and talking about my work. Well, what I did first was connecting to with Tom, telling the story so that he could handle the communication of this situation, because at that moment also we were launching a new cohort talking about our inner circle program. So we need to tell the members who joined that program that it wasn't going to be possible. And
And it
talking
was the
about
very
myself,
first time doing it for over a year each month, an inner circle cohort. Well, we always had some personal issues or something like that, but we never canceled. We always be present or made it work in some way or form. But this was really then out of hand. That's something we cannot change.
yeah,
And we cannot have the coaching session without Paco, right?
yeah, but the thing about system is that even that they can fail at any moment, uh, they are built to recover, and that's something important. Talking about now going back to our reality as busy professionals and forgetting this anecdote, because at the end, that was what it was. Okay, the electricity returned in Madrid, I think, at 8 p.m. So it was 8 hours without electricity in Madrid and in most of the country. Okay, the thing is that we see how they made the recovering process by following a protocol to guarantee that the moment that everything was up again, it won't fall again. Okay, because that would have been a disaster. Talking about uncertainty, the psychological aspect, the making people untrust the system. Okay, so I think that it was really amazing how this was escalated little by little, and how they end up, well, making things perfect. And that's, in my case, what I made. Okay, I think that the moment that you have a system in place, like a productivity system, you feel calm. Okay, I went back to my productivity system without any problem, knowing how to prioritize the things that matter. Okay, staying calm. Okay, knowing perfectly how to prioritize, assuming trade-offs. Okay, for instance, just a simple anecdote, because something that we should never do is trying to force a system, okay? The exact same way that the electricity system wasn't forced at that time, okay, to recover everything and work maybe in a shorter amount of time, or trying to do something that doesn't make sense due to the big impact of this um, uh, situation. You have to do the exact same thing, okay? And that's something that is not easy to do, because I'm a system person, okay, a system brain, and I force myself to always go back to the system and try to do the things as is nothing has happened. And that's a big mistake, okay? You need to sacrifice the things, to prioritize the thing, to enter in a little bit of reactive mode, okay? And then little by little, you see that you will recover, okay? It took me a whole day, the day after, to catch things up, okay? But the day after, on Wednesday, I was working properly, okay? I think that if you don't have a productivity system in place, this type of events that is just, well, the culmination, okay, of an unexpected event, people would have crashed, okay? And the whole week could have been lost, okay? You start doing things randomly without criteria. And I think that that's the beautiful thing about having a productivity system in place, that you can go back to the system you trust, quickly make the necessary adjustment, and then keep going, okay? And I think that that's important. It's important because that sense of control in this situation, because imagine the moment that you suffer any unexpected event, but the mindset is exactly the same.
Yeah.
And I think that that's important, that for the brain, it's not effort at all, because it's running the exact same brain processes, okay, and connections that you are doing with any other much more simplistic, unexpected event that can happen every single day.
I came to the same conclusion, and I have an anecdote there as too. Back when COVID hit the first time, so I just took over the team in big corporate for the first time, and they've been in reactive mode anyway. So they've been going from meeting to meeting and all this. And then I had time to establish the systems. So those who don't know the story yet, you just have to listen to any other stories where I keep sharing this. But the fact is, I implemented a system. It was based on Asana, and everybody, it was, no longer calls, and everything was in a single source of truth. And I moved things digitally, and it was an IT team that I was leading there. And yet still so many things were on paper or meeting directly face to face and things like that. So I already changed this whole way we work together. And then COVID hit. And the moment COVID hit, I stayed at home and we kept working. And that was the moment where it really showed that we were one of the few having a working system. Because for us there was no interruption. We still had access to the systems. We knew what to work on. The project management tool was working, all these things. In fact, the efficiency of the team even improved when COVID hit, because they no longer got interrupted by people who walk in and ask, do you get 5 minutes? So that's where we even further improved efficiency using the system. And that was for me the insight and confirmation that this is the way to go, and why I force the things that my people can stay even at home when COVID, went back and you were able to go back and things like that, because they were just more focused doing it this way. But this only works if you have a system that in place and everybody knows what to do, and things were digitized and no more need to go into the company. And yeah.
Correct. I would like to share some tips, or whatever you call them, okay, or hacks, talking about how do you react, okay, to a situation like this one, okay? How do you guarantee that great question that comes from our peer workflow, okay? One of the workflows in the ICOR methodology, that is, am I doing what I should be doing? Okay, that's one of the things that matters. In this situation, it's crucial, okay, to reply to that situation, because you need to prioritize the things that matter the most, okay? And for me, the thing that matters the most is trying to look for a solution to make the system work again, okay? You need to find out the cause, what you are suffering, the biggest friction point that it's avoiding you to run the system, to little by little keep the system going. Okay, and I think that that's important. Okay, for me, it was knowing the tasks that were the most crucial for the different companies that I run, and then afterwards, something that I always do whenever something like this happens, an unexpected event that has a deep impact, is take control of the shallow work. For me, the shallow work, and for most of the busy professional, is the source of suffering, I could say, okay, because you got a ton of it. And I think that the moment that you take control of the shallow work in this situation that you are completely outside, gives you a sense of accomplishment, okay? Because you do a lot of little things and you get that sense of, man, I'm completing things, executing things, completing things, getting things out of my way, and avoiding delays in many things, because that's important also. If you get stuck doing, for instance, what was planned or the things that you were supposed to do, for instance, one of the sacrifices I made the last week was, instead of publishing one of our articles, instead of publishing two of our articles, sorry, I just published one. Okay, that was painful for me, but it was less painful than having a pile of shallow work, delays, a lot of consequences by following the plan and the schedule. That's what building a flexible productivity system means, okay, that you perfectly know the moment that you need to do sacrifices, you are sacrificing the things that is the less important in those circumstances, okay? Being fully focused on the scenario that you are facing at that moment. And I think that that's important, okay, because I'm not suffering because of not publishing the second article or whatever it was supposed to deliver, okay? Because I know that I did the right thing. And I think that that's one of the most important things that a productivity system should deliver to the person who created it. That is, no matter what happens, you're gonna perform at your best, okay? And I think that this is a clear example. And with this uh, situation, I think that it's much better to understand the concept of sacrificing the things, of prioritizing, of not being following the plan 100% no matter what happens. I think that that flexibility is something that we do need, because today was an electricity outage, but some other day unexpected things will happen, and we need to be constantly in this situation of making sacrifices, because it's really difficult to plan something and complete 100% of what was planned. I think that this is something that we need to internalize, and the moment that we internalize that and put it into practice, we start delivering at our best, because that's what we are doing with the right productivity system behind.
100%. I think that is a perfect ending of this episode today. And we are glad you're back, Paco. And
Me
it
too.
was
Me too.
just more of a shock than a real incident. So that's good. And let's hope that things will run smoothly in the future. Until next
Yeah,
week
and I
when we
got
catch you guys up again.
Yeah, and I would like to end with a reflection that it's important, is that we need to understand that big projects, big systems fail, okay? I don't know how many people are in charge of the electricity power here in Spain, but it failed, okay? And this weekend I was,
Well,
because it's something that I
it's
do
just
love,
Homer Simpson, I thought, sitting there and pushing the knobs.
Yeah, and the thing is that, for instance, this weekend I was watching a documentary about Formula One, okay, and the different teams and things that happen. And behind the Williams team, okay, there are 1,000 people, okay, working together, and they still don't want a race, okay. So how come? How come are we not going to fail with our limited resources? I think that we need to be aware that even the big players in any field, they also missed and they failed, okay? And nothing happens. Nothing's happened because complex things tend to fail. It's a situation that we need to handle. And that's what happens to us as busy professionals. We are constantly failing, and there's no drama on that. It's part of the game. The point is that we need to win more than lose and fail, but we need to admit failure, okay, and be prepared to failure, accept it, learn from it, okay, from this situation, how can I improve my productivity system so I can better deal when a situation like this happens? And that's why we are constantly refining, polishing our productivity system, and why we deliver products that are endless and for lifetime, okay, for a member, because this is something that is continuously improving, okay, and that's something that we need to understand and interiorize, because we will suffer a little bit less, and that's important in life.
Amen to that, 100%. All right, guys, we will catch you guys up next week then. Have a good time.
Okay, see you. A pleasure. Take care.